Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus Room, presented by Sportsruckus. This is Jesse Peel, and alongside my longtime friend, my best friend, starter, co-founder of Sportsruckus, Justin Walters. What's going on, Jess?
What's going on, Jess? How you doing, man?
I can't complain, man. Can't complain. How it goes. Just wanted to kind of get this first podcast out the way and get an introduction to us. People have followed us either on Twitter, of course, being at Sports Ruckus on Twitter or at JP Sports Ruckus for me. And just kind of getting the idea of the kind of things that we do. But people have followed us and interacted with us. But I kind of wanted to get this first podcast out to kind of really introduce us and to kind of explain as to why we love doing what we do. Want to give an introduction of yourself, Mr. Walters?
That's what I have. I'm football. Played football. Love the game. Just enjoy scouting players, breaking down teams, building teams, and the whole process. And it's just something we've become. I don't want to say we've become good at, but something just a love of the game, man, and passion that we both have, and we played together and put together some teams and competed against teams we shouldn't have competed against and held our own. So that coaching side, that team building side, and that's the love of the game that we share. I like to just put it out there for people.
And it's interesting you say that as far as love of the game. It's something that I think we both ended up not only just loving the game itself, but it kind of like we loved every aspect of it, and it helped shape who we are as people in a lot of ways. There's things that we've been through in our own personal lives that we competed through. Although we've gotten through it because we've learned to overcome some sort of adversity. A lot of that came through just, sports. In the sense of there's times when, like you said, we played against teams. I know, they were better than us physically.
Right.
But we just knew ways to kind of get past certain things and to will the rest of our teams to get through it. So
Right.
But
definitely.
Yeah, no, we've been doing the scouting thing for a while now. Next guy, it had me. I didn't think of it being that long until I saw the first time we tweeted about, or you had sent me the first time we did a draft.
Right.
And I was like, has it really been that long?
Yeah. It's funny. The way I remember what year we started was I remember losing some friends fighting over Odell Beckham versus Mike Evans. That's like been that fight we had, a bunch of our friends had. So that's how I know where we started, and it was a great class. That was a great class to get started with, but some of us still don't talk.
That was an interesting one because that was one that we actually had strong opinions about that draft.
Yeah,
and that one was the first time that I thought, okay, this is either going to make Sports Ruckus the thing, or it's going to flame out within the first year or two.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, and some didn't stick around.
Most,
right?
Most. They played their part though. It kind of worked out the way it's supposed to, I guess.
Yeah. At the same time, it's something to where we started even rethinking some of the own way we look at the game and the way we started strategizing as far as scouting wise. And the one thing I always respected about, especially between you, myself, some of the other guys we work with, was just being able to say, okay, you know what? I have a certain view of somebody, or a certain view of a player. You have a certain view of a player. We can come to the table and talk about it. And I know there's players that you sold me on that I wasn't, completely thrilled about. But when you showed me certain things that I wasn't seeing about that player or about the way he plays within the game, it changed my viewpoint at that point. So, but we're able to do that and bring it to the table and be able to discuss it because every year, matter of fact, it almost seems like every few games we start to really analyze, am I seeing this right?
Yeah.
We talk about biases all the time. Like we just had a conversation about bias. And
right.
Is my bias towards a certain aspect of the game a thing? Is it a problem? But
Yeah. That you know what else is humility is, and notice, we deal on Twitter, so we're in a world of personalities and selling a personality or fake persona, but part of learning the game is learning the game. I mean, it would have been nice to get signed to a team in 2014 and have them get your opinions, but there's a lot of wrong. There's a lot of things that didn't go right that year or any year, and
right.
you build to become the person you need to become. So I mean, every year you find out different things, and you're like, okay, well, I need to adjust my thinking, and you learn from different people you meet along the way, and learn from each other, and our takes on the game have changed, which it's supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many egos that want to say, I'm gonna pound the table. Like, for certain things, the game's changing. The game's changed. It's in the process. It's changing. So you got to get ahead of that, and that's what teams want. Teams don't need to know what you thought in 2014. Because if you
Hmm.
still think that, then you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, I mean, look how many times people have missed on guys, and I mean, we're gonna get into that, of course, when we do this the start talking about scouting, but it's simple fact of, like, you have to be able to have enough people around you, or to be able to mold your own thinking. The humility, like you said, the humility to be like, obviously I missed something,
Right.
or
Yeah.
obviously I'm not seeing this correctly, because whoever's with you at the table can bring something different.
Right. Definitely. Definitely.
But what this question I've always been interested in. It's like, what is your favorite thing about the game itself? Like, what is the thing that kind of drives you to this day?
Man. You know what? I've been an underdog when it came to sports, where I didn't. I love the competition. I love the brotherhood, the
Mm-hmm.
relationships that you get from the game. So that's the part even as I'm not playing anymore, to getting older, is that you miss. Flag football don't count. So I mean, but you miss that brotherhood, problem solving. Hey, you know what? They're killing us here. How do we stop that? Hey,
Right.
this is what we have. This is what they have. How do we eliminate that with the talent that we have on our team?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the team building part. Hey, you know what? You can't always have the all-star team. So you have to have your method of attack. When you read different books, you see how the Patriots aren't a great drafting team, but they make it work
Mm-hmm.
more better than anyone. But that's the best part of the game. And like I said, the relationships you build over time. The things people don't see. The hours after practice we spent
Mm-hmm.
working on a drop back, working on getting your hands on people. Different little strategies that worked out or didn't work out, and just going back to the drawing board.
No, and it's funny you say that, because how many times we sat there after practices, we've been on the phone and sent videos to each other and talked about different things in technique that we need to work on, or scheming, or how many times we stayed after practice and we sit there and talk about things we can do the next practice,
Right,
or
right.
for a certain team that we couldn't get, we had trouble with the last time we played them.
Yep.
You
Or
know,
working with a player that's struggling with something.
right, right, because we always
Not
knew.
because you just can't replace people. Like, it's not. We don't live in that world. We don't live in. Hey, you know what? That kid's struggling with the gym. Get him out of here. Like, we didn't have that
Right,
ability.
right. So, and it was just something that you knew we had to figure, but you also knew too that once you got him to a certain point, like, he was there forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Once we
When
helped
you
him
you
get
get
to
some
it.
joy out of it. You get joy out of it too, just
Yeah.
to see it.
And I miss that. Like, I think I love that about the game the most, is the fact of, um, we can kind of be there for each other and help each other, and work to get to a certain point.
Right.
Like, I love seeing guys who didn't think they had it in them, to all of a
Yep.
sudden, or maybe we didn't think they had it in them, to
Right.
to get to that point where they're real contributors and they can really play.
Right. 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 Like, he might not be an all-star, but he's the
Right.
best seam defender. You know what I
We've
mean? Like,
ever had.
right.
Like,
He's
that's just,
his
yeah.
cover two corner is lights out.
Yep.
You put him in man, he's the worst player in the league. But you put him in that cover two, he'll put his hands on you, and he's the man.
Yeah.
That's the best part of the game. It's, you like to be like, I made this play. I mean, you don't remember. I don't remember that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember certain touchdowns. You just remember the relationships, the battles that you had with
Mm-hmm.
your brothers. I mean, I tell my son, I said, I remember losses more than the wins sometimes,
Oh.
because that's what brought the best out of certain people, or
Mm-hmm.
took you to the next level. So
Yeah, I remember the time we played in Jersey, and then we lost the championship game. And I remember going back. I think it was directly after the game, and you had told everybody, in 2 weeks they're going back on the field, and it was like we knew we had to change the whole process.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
we can't go back out here and just think, okay, we're gonna beat somebody just straight talent. Like no, we gotta change the process. Everybody get ready to work, and we got to that
right,
next practice, and we changed part of the team strictly because of how hard we started working.
right, right.
Because some people didn't want to be part of that.
Yeah, well, you got the guys now. You see them to this day, and they remember those things. You
Yep.
know,
And it's but those got everybody we had in that squad. We just built to a point where we could just win strictly because of as long as you played your position correctly, as long as you did what your
right,
job at that point, we could have beat anybody.
right,
So, and I miss that. I miss that portion of it. I miss, you and I sitting down between games and scheming and looking at other teams and seeing what they do well and picking that apart. Like, I miss
right,
that. I miss that portion of the game. And I think a lot of guys when they come into the league and they start, like some guys say that I don't mind playing on Sundays, but it's the rest of the time that bothers them. So like
yeah,
training camp and things like that. Some of the guys don't want to do training camp anymore because that's not the things that they fell in love with.
right, right,
They fell
right,
in love with the actual game.
right. True, true. It's yeah, it's a business. You know what I mean? And that's the part where doing this is fun because you watch the teams and you point out, especially we're big into nitpicking on things and hey, well, this hand wasn't here, and you learn as you go and you see the game and you watch teams and you find flaws. And the big thing I want to focus on with us that we try to do is there's no perfect players. There's every player has a flaw. So when someone's telling you, hey, this guy's generational, the only thing that can go wrong is he breaks his leg.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not true. I mean, people fail. You never know. And I think that's something we're going to separate ourselves because we're going to find there's a possibility he can fail, and this is how. This is where he fits. This is where he doesn't fit. You know what I mean? If he goes here, he can be in some trouble. If he goes here, he can do here. He can be somebody else. If he's used this way, he can be this. If he's used this way, he might not make it. And I think that's I don't know, like that's where we're at now. I think a lot of people just want to be the players' friends and add them with their tweet and say, hey, I said you were a star. Well, it is what that's the way the
Right,
game
right.
is. It doesn't.
And at a certain point, it just becomes, oh no, if like there are certain players I know we were critical of, and they may have turned out better than we thought.
Yeah.
But there are other players who we knew, they could play.
Right.
They got by because of they were good in college and those around them were good in college, and they fit well in that scheme. But as soon as they got outside of that little box,
I mean, it's like that. It's like that in the NFL. There's
Yeah.
guys that are playing for. I was talking to someone the other day about the Saints, and they're not to go get too into it. And they were saying how, different play Marcus Colston, Ted Ginn, different guys from they were good on the Saints,
Mm-hmm.
and they went elsewhere and they don't exist. Like, so that happens everywhere. With certain receivers, you get with the right offensive coordinator, with the right quarterback, and you're this player. And now you go somewhere else, make a little bit more money, and they expect you to be a number one receiver, and you're not. And now the guy's not in the league. You know what I mean? Like, if Marcus Colston didn't go to the Saints, who knows what he would have been? Or different other players, no names in particular, but just different players. You get in the right system around the right people. You have Earl Thomas as your free safety, covers a lot more ground. Well, younger Earl Thomas, or different players that can fix you, that can you work together and you get paid. Or remember Byron Maxwell got paid as being a Seahawk and went to the Eagles, and he wasn't the same Byron Maxwell.
Nope.
Or he was the same Byron Maxwell, but he didn't have the same help. So I mean, that's the way that's what scouting is supposed to be helping. That's what the game. Like, hey, why is this guy so good, even though we've never heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's got one of the best free safeties in the league.
Right.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's part of the issue. Maybe we should look into that, as opposed to, hey, you know what? We got this money. Let's just give it to him. Problem solved. Or anything. So.
Yeah. And I think that's where we started taking the ideas more from was, how especially when we're getting to the team building portion of it. It's understanding certain players, understanding like certain people aren't going to fit. They may not. It may not be like they're not a good player. Let's not be good in that particular situation.
At this level, there are no bad players.
Right.
Well, you might see, might think that at times or be yelling it during the game, but where we're at, they're not bad players. You know what I mean? That's why I hate seeing like, oh, this guy stinks. Like, stinks is a strong word for anybody. Like, what's, right. No matter how bad what he just did might look to you, no one stinks. He might have some flaws that got exposed today, but no one's a terrible football. You don't make it that far as a terrible football player.
Right. And there's nobody's to the point where, like, I mean, you wouldn't be drafted at a certain point if you're just a completely bad player. Like,
right, exactly.
Busts.
Right.
Like, even a bust that go out there, there are qualities they obviously had that made them good to be athletic enough to be found on the college, right. Division I level. So
right.
obviously,
or even a high level Division II player. Like, yeah,
right.
You don't just go into a league that there's 32 teams and 60 players. That's in the top 1% of 1%. So, and you put him in a different league, he's the greatest player in the world. Right. Like they said, if an NBA player came into the basketball court with us, they're all Jordan.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I mean, we sat there I remember being in high school and a couple of kids from UConn came down that we thought were just trash. And, right. I guarded one of them during the summer league, and that dude put the brakes on me. Like, he beat the brakes off me. That, like, it was just, you think, okay, obviously I'm a good player because I played, summer league in my little town. But
right.
No, this dude was a UConn Division I player. He was the best player in his state.
They all are.
He came over.
They all are. They all are.
Yeah. And you kind of forget those things. So that was like, I forgot who had said it. There was one of the scouts that said something like, every player can bend. You just got to find out what the actual problem is. Is it they have bad knees? Do they have a hip issue? Are they just tight hit? Are they like
right.
People can bend because everybody physically can bend at a certain point. It's just how bad are you at it?
Right.
So, or what your problem is. And that's kind of, we started figuring out to look more of. It's like there's players who can do certain things, but they, some people just can't because of A, B, or C.
Right. Well, it's your job as a team when you're picking this guy to know, hey, we're good at coaching this, so we can take him and fix him. We're not good at coaching this, so even though there's potential there, we can't take him because we can't fix it. And I think that's what separates the good teams from the bad, from the bad teams or the average teams. The Patriots have a type, so they might pick a guy who you're like, what are they going to do with him? They use him only on third downs, and he only does this, and he's good at it. And some teams just pick a guy because he was good at college, not knowing how we'll get him and then we'll figure out how to use him. Like, that's not how it works. Not in a league that's set up the way it is. The NFL's set up for everyone to be 8-8. So the little decisions you make, good or bad, that's one win this way or one loss that way. And that's how the league separates itself.
And you're on that timetable after a while too with coaches. They realize it. I just can't. I'm not going to have 6, 7, 8, 9 years to kind of figure something out.
Sheesh, you might not have 2.
Right. So,
right.
Well, I just coach just saying, listen, you got to get in here and figure this thing out, which is why they're trying to get better at scouting and trying to get better at people coming in, because you got to find the right player for your team. Because if not,
yeah, or even I think there's no more projects.
Right.
You pick up quarterback, he's playing year 1, or maybe year 2. You're not sitting there for 3-4 years and like, hey, you know what? He'll be all right. By that time, staff done changed. Yeah.
Like it's over. You might as well sit there now. If you're sitting there and saying, we drafted this guy for, to play in year 4, then he's playing for another coach. Like,
right.
It's just
right. Or you finally got him good. Now he's like, you know what? I'm going to go over there. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm going to go take that money and go play for someone else.
I'm not signing this contract anymore. Thank you very much. I'm out of here.
Yeah. No one's – you don't have time. You don't have time. You're rushing, As much as Tua with the injury, I'll be shocked if he doesn't play this year because that's the way.
Yeah,
That's the way the league is. Fans will be booing Fitzpatrick after the first interception.
Yep.
And every mistake he makes will be magnified, and maybe they're 0-4 or 1-4 to whatever, and now it's time to play. That happens every year.
Because what's going to happen, especially with Fitzpatrick. Like, it's going to be something where you're going to have that one game where he's going to throw 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 3 bad interceptions. And
right.
You're going to be like, all right, get this guy out of here. We obviously got somebody sitting behind him.
Well, especially with, like you said, with the fans, it's giving them some energy.
Mm-hmm.
Having him on the team. But patience is what got them to where they are.
Right.
I mean, Flores seems like he has control over the team and kind of doesn't care what people think. So maybe he'll stay patient. But I mean, that's the way it's been for years. We always hear you'll have that general manager saying, "There's no way this guy plays this year." Week 5, he's in. So.
Right.
What was it? Daniel Jones wasn't supposed to play this year. I don't know. Haskins wasn't supposed to play this year, and they didn't even make it to halfway through the season, and they're already out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're calling them busts when they
Right.
weren't supposed to play. Like, how's that even work? That's. And now we got teams replace them after 1 year. What happened to Rosen with Murray?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even play a full season, and they're already replacing him. This year, teams were saying they should have took Tua and let Haskins go. So it's
such
like
a fast league now. Things have changed so much than previous. We've had. I was telling my nephew one day that because you kind of just take it for granted that they know these things, but when you realize they don't because they didn't live through certain portions of it. When I was saying that Jerry Rice one time was on the Denver Broncos, like he didn't play for him in that sense, but like he was in a jersey for him. He played for the Raiders,
right?
And he was like, he did, like
right?
Because back then it was you had a guy, he stayed there for almost his whole career, and then
right.
That was really about it. But now it's at a point where anybody can go. You can go anywhere.
Right.
They're talking about possibly Rodgers. Is he going to be the quarterback over the next, after 3 years for the Packers? It's a real question.
Kind of can't be.
Right.
I mean, after the investment they just made, how long do you let this guy sit, the backup sit?
Right.
And you got to know what you have to decide if you want to pick up his option after 4, for the 5th year. So you don't. It's I don't know.
So,
barring him doing something insane, like either making himself get traded or winning a Super Bowl. And even, I don't even know if that matters,
Right.
So,
mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting.
Should be. But, yeah, we just wanted to get this shorter than probably the normal ones are going to be. Podcast out of the way so we can introduce you to ourselves, and you'll get more out of us in the upcoming months, years. We're going to start the audio podcast more like this. The next one's probably going to be about scouting, a little more things that we view, how we view the game, and things that we look for. So we're going to have things like that. We're going to have the Ruckus Room's also going to have like film sessions, so you'll be seeing more videos and how we see certain things in certain plays, and so you can actually physically see what we're doing. The YouTube page should be up in July, hopefully, and you'll be able to get this information to the website also. It's probably where you're getting this from. And we're just going to keep moving forward. So if we're trying to make stuff a little more accessible, we'll have an email up, for you guys to send questions in, things of that nature. So probably take questions from you guys also. But thank you for listening. And again, my name is Jesse Peel, and Justin Walters is always going to be right there with us. So I thank you again, and follow Justin at Sportsruckus, and follow me at JP Sportsruckus. And Justin, anything else you want to add?
No, just looking forward to seeing where this goes, man. If you have any complaint, any questions, you can contact me or any complaints, you can contact Jesse. For argue, if you want to argue or any of that, that's on him. But appreciate it. And I look forward to the next one.
I'm not above arguing, people. I'm not above arguing. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next episode.